Well, guys, there's a lot of wonders of the whitetail world that we just can't seem to make sense of. There's a lot of different things. You think you go in there, everything's perfect, and you don't see any deer. One of those things is cold fronts, and specifically cold fronts later in the year. Let's face it, right now I'm kind of sitting in a situation here in December where I'm looking for a cold front maybe, or at least one of the things in my arsenal I'd like to have going for me is a nice cold front. Obviously there's other characteristics or other features or other things that I always do no matter what. I don't let weather dictate whether I'm going to hunt or not generally at least. So, but a lot of people do. And a lot of people wait for cold fronts. Now the September, October cold fronts are a little bit different than the November, December, January cold fronts. And I'm going to get into some reasons why. So like I said, we've all been there. We see it in the forecast. We waited. Maybe we check our fancy apps that tell us, hey, next Saturday is going to be the day. Like, we're going to get a big cold front. It says hunting's going to be great. Woo! We're getting all pumped up. We stay out of the woods for 5 days in hopes that we wait for the perfect conditions. And sometimes that is necessary, especially in the setting of the private land guy who's got food sources, or somebody who's got destination food sources that they're hunting over, something that you pretty much know the deer are coming to every night, and you want to wait for the right time to get in there. Now I can get down with that. I can make sense of that, guys. That's something you should do, especially if you don't have great access. I mean, if you have bulletproof access, heck, you should be able to get in there every single night without bothering these deer. But let's say you don't, and you want to wait for the right scenario, and you go in for that right scenario, and you get skunked, or you don't see all the deer, or your target buck doesn't come out. Why? There are some reasons, and one main reason that I can lean on and maybe solve one of the wonders of the whitetail world. So I'm not going to say that this is for sure the answer, but it definitely makes sense from a biological standpoint why deer don't always move during cold fronts. So think about it this way. It's a cold winter day, and you're in your bed, okay? And it's chilly outside, it's chilly in the house. You really don't want to get out of bed. It's cold, and eventually your body knows that, you can't sit there because your feet are going to get cold, your hands are going to get cold, whatever the case is. You're going to get cold if you don't start moving around, but your brain fights it off. You say, I don't want to get out of bed, and you lay there and you huddle up for a longer amount of time. Maybe you get out of bed a half an hour later than what you planned. The same is true for whitetails. Okay, well, how can we make sense of that, Brett? Well, I'm going to tell you. So, whitetails basically allow heat to leave their body through certain portions of their body. And if you think about when you've skun a deer in the past, or you killed a deer and you've skun it, where are some of the thinnest portions of hide or that coat that deer have? It's in the armpits. It's kind of in the underbelly, in the groin area, in the armpits of the deer. How can they keep the heat in for as long as they possibly can? By staying bedded. So when they stay bedded and they stay in a tight, compact, basically in a position, in a tight, compact position, they're allowing all that heat to stay in as long as they can. But it can only last so long before the body slowly starts cooling off. A lot of times on those super freakishly cold front days, you might get a 20, 30 degrees temp swing, and you're looking at that forecast like, this is the day they're going to be moving. When in reality, that weather might keep those deer in their beds longer because they're fighting the urge mentally to want to get up and go and move, because they're holding every bit of heat that they can for as long as they can, knowing that the first 10, 15 minutes of getting up and moving could be a little bit, I don't know if I want to say unbearable, but uncomfortable. Surely makes sense to me, because they're using that theory of you want to stay in bed, you want to stay covered up as long as you can till you can't stand it anymore. And that whole process might take some time and allow deer to get up a little bit later. Now, don't get me wrong, they're still going to make it to your food source, but it might be a half an hour after dark. So next time you guys are out there wondering, you got out there and you waited for that cold front and you saw your app, you're going to get the 20, 30 degree temp drop and maybe some blustery winds, and you're like, this is the day, deer are going to have to move. You got to understand that deer are built for the elements, and they can probably wait out these elements a lot longer than any other animal, and that's why they're so resilient and have become what these animals have become over time. So these deer can put up with some serious cold, and they can put up with it longer than you think. So they don't always have to get up and get to that food plot in daylight. They just don't. There's natural browse on the way that could slow them down. And the main reason for this video is the whole armpit situation, or the thin hair under the arms or in the legs or groin region of the deer. It allows, as soon as they stand up, the heat starts to disperse and they start losing heat faster. That's why the deer have to start moving, eventually get to the food source, and the whole process kind of starts from there. So next time you go out and you're thinking about, why are the deer not moving, that might be the answer, or at least one of the answers. Obviously, there's a lot of variables, access routes, we got to talk about all that stuff. But if those things all lined up and you said tonight was going to be the perfect night and it wasn't, well, maybe you got to think a little bit deeper. And I'm not saying that I solved one of the whitetail wonders of the world, but it definitely makes sense to me. So think about that one next time, guys.